Picture this. You're at a dinner party, surrounded by laughter and chatter. You've just been introduced to someone new, a stranger whose name you barely caught amidst the clinking glasses and muffled voices. For a fleeting moment, your eyes meet, and there it is, the inevitable question. So, what do? Your response comes out smooth enough, but then silence. Not an ordinary pause, mind you, but a suffocating void that seems to stretch into eternity. Their gaze flickers away for a split second before returning with polite interest. Or worse, thinly veiled discomfort. What now? Do you fill the space with small talk about the weather? Or perhaps launch into an awkward monologue about your cat's peculiar eating habits? Either way, the weight of expectation hangs heavy in the air, pressing down on you like a storm cloud threatening rain. Why does silence feel so unbearable? Why does the absence of words carry such immense psychological weight? Isn't conversation supposed to be natural? Effortless even? After all, humans are social creatures wired for connection. Yet here you are, trapped in a paradox. The very act meant to foster understanding, conversation, has become a source of dread. It's as though the more we try to say something meaningful, the harder it becomes to find the right words. And when no words come, the silence speaks louder than anything else. It whispers doubts, insecurities, fears. Is it possible that our struggle to keep conversations alive reveals something deeper about ourselves? Consider this unsettling truth. Most people believe they run out of things to say because they lack ideas or knowledge. But what if the real issue isn't a shortage of topics? It's how we think about communication itself. Think back to every stalled conversation you've endured. Was it truly because there was nothing left to discuss? Or was it because you were searching for the perfect thing to say, afraid of saying the wrong thing, or worse, being misunderstood? Here lies the crux of the matter. We don't run out of things to say. We run out of courage to speak freely. Let's delve deeper. Imagine two friends sitting across from each other, locked in animated discussion. They laugh, interrupt, nod vigorously, their words flowing effortlessly like water over smooth stones. Now imagine another pair nearby, struggling to maintain eye contact as the seconds tick by. What separates these two scenarios? Is it intelligence, wit, charisma? Or could it be something far simpler yet profoundly profound? Presence? Presence isn't merely paying attention, it's engaging fully, leaning into curiosity without judgment. When you bring your whole self to a conversation, you transform it from transactional exchange into shared exploration. But why does this shift feel so elusive? Why do we cling to scripts instead of embracing spontaneity? Here's where the tension builds. If presence is the key to unlocking endless streams of thought, why do so few of us practice it? From childhood, we're taught to impress, to craft polished answers, rehearse anecdotes, polish our personas until they gleam under scrutiny. But beneath this veneer lies a haunting question. At what cost? Every rehearsed line distances us further from genuine connection, leaving behind fragments of who we might have been. And still, we wonder, how can we break free from this cycle of pretense and rediscover the art of authentic dialogue? This leads us to a pivotal realization, one that challenges everything you thought you knew about conversation. What if the secret to never running out of things to say doesn't lie in mastering clever tricks or memorizing witty remarks? What if it's rooted in something far more fundamental, learning to listen, not just to others, but to yourself? Because within that quiet space between words lies untapped potential waiting to be unearthed. But how does one cultivate this skill? What tools can help bridge the gap between silence and speech, transforming moments of uncertainty into opportunities for connection? These questions beckon us forward, urging exploration of counterintuitive strategies and radical mindset shifts. Because embedded within the answers lies the promise of liberation, not just from awkward pauses, but from the prison of self-doubt itself. Why do we falter when words should flow freely? Why does the fear of saying the wrong thing paralyze us mid-conversation? To answer these questions, we must peel back the layers of human behavior and examine the hidden forces, psychological, cultural, and even neurological, that shape how we communicate. After all, conversation isn't just an exchange of words, it's a delicate interplay of vulnerability, perception, and power dynamics. And understanding these forces can illuminate why so many of us stumble where connection could thrive. At the heart of this issue lies a paradox rooted in our evolutionary wiring. Humans are inherently social creatures, yet our brains are wired for survival, not eloquence. Evolutionary psychologists like Robin Dunbar argue that language evolved as a tool for bonding within groups, ensuring cooperation and mutual support. But here's the twist. While language fosters connection, it also exposes us to judgment. Every word we speak carries the risk of rejection or ridicule, triggering ancient survival mechanisms. When faced with silence during a conversation, your brain doesn't register it as neutral. It perceives it as a potential threat. This is why awkward pauses feel so unbearable. They activate the same fight-or-flight response designed to protect us from predators. But in modern society, the predator isn't a lion, it's the imagined scorn of another person. Philosophers have long grappled with the tension between authenticity and conformity, and their insights shed light on why conversations often stall. Thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre explored how humans live under the gaze of others, the constant awareness that we are being observed, judged, and categorized. In his seminal work, Being and Nothingness, Sartre argued that this gaze strips us of autonomy, forcing us to craft personas that align with external expectations. Conversations become battlegrounds where we perform rather than express ourselves. We filter our words, censor our thoughts, and second-guess every utterance, all out of fear that someone might misinterpret or dislike what we say. Is it any wonder, then, that we run out of things to say? It's not a lack of ideas, but a suffocating pressure to curate perfection. Societal conditioning compounds this problem. From childhood, we're taught to prioritize politeness over honesty, tact over spontaneity. Schools reinforce this through rigid rules about raising hands before speaking, waiting for turns, and adhering to predetermined scripts. Even media perpetuates the myth of flawless communication. Think of charismatic TV hosts who never stumble, or witty characters in movies whose banter flows effortlessly. These unrealistic standards seep into our subconscious, convincing us that good conversations must be polished, clever, and free of awkwardness. But real life isn't scripted, and neither are meaningful connections. By clinging to these ideals, we stifle natural dialogue and create barriers instead of bridges. Consider the spotlight effect, which tricks us into believing that everyone notices and judges our every move. Did I pause too long? Was my joke funny enough? Does my voice sound strange? These intrusive thoughts hijack our mental bandwidth, leaving little room for genuine engagement. Add to this the negativity bias, which amplifies criticism over praise, and suddenly, one disapproving glance outweighs 10 approving smiles. No wonder we hesitate to speak. We're fighting an uphill battle against our own minds. Yet beneath these layers of inhibition lies a deeper truth. The art of conversation isn't about mastering verbal gymnastics or memorizing clever quips. It's about presence, the ability to listen deeply, respond authentically, and stay curious. Psychologist Carl Rogers emphasized this in his theory of unconditional positive regard, arguing that true connection arises when we approach others without judgment or agenda. When you bring your full attention to a conversation, you transform it from transactional exchange into shared exploration. You stop worrying about what to say next because you're fully immersed in the moment, responding organically to what unfolds. But if presence is the key, why does it feel so elusive? Perhaps because society prioritizes and rewards performance over authenticity. Social media platforms, for instance, incentivize curated content over raw interaction. Likes, shares, and comments serve as digital applause, reinforcing the belief that value lies in presentation rather than substance. This mindset bleeds into face-to-face interactions where we instinctively try to impress rather than connect. Each rehearsed line distances us further from genuine rapport, leaving behind fragments of who we might have been. Here's where the tension builds. If presence is the antidote to conversational paralysis, how do we cultivate it in a world obsessed with appearances? What tools can help us silence the inner critic and embrace the beauty of imperfection? These questions hint at a deeper revelation, one that challenges everything we thought we knew about communication. Because embedded within the answers lies the promise of liberation, not just from awkward silences, but from the prison of self-doubt itself. What if the real reason you struggle to keep a conversation flowing isn't just about running out of words? It's about being too afraid to use them. Beneath every awkward pause or hesitant response lies a web of unspoken fears. The fear of oversharing, the dread of being misunderstood, and the compulsion to maintain an air of mystery. These invisible forces don't just silence us. They imprison us in a self-imposed cage, leaving us disconnected even when surrounded by people who genuinely want to connect. Let's start with oversharing, one of modern society's most vilified conversational sins. How often have you held back mid-sentence, wondering, is this too much information? Will they think I'm weird? Oversharing is framed as a cardinal sin because it supposedly breaches social boundaries. Yet what if the problem isn't sharing itself, but the shame attached to vulnerability? Brené Brown, a researcher on courage and vulnerability, argues that true connection requires daring greatly, the willingness to expose parts of ourselves without knowing how others will respond. Yet cultural norms teach us otherwise. Social media, for instance, thrives on curated perfection. Posts are edited, filtered, and polished before hitting share. In face-to-face interactions, this same impulse manifests as overthinking, weighing each word against imagined judgment. But here's the paradox. Withholding your authentic self doesn't protect you, it isolates you. When you edit your thoughts into bite-sized chunks of safe content, you rob the conversation of depth and intimacy. And when both parties play this game, the result is surface-level chatter devoid of meaning. Then there's the fear of misconceptions, another insidious barrier to fluid dialogue. Have you ever hesitated to express an opinion, fearing someone might twist your words or misinterpret your intent? This fear stems from a deeper psychological phenomenon known as cognitive bias, where listeners filter incoming information through their own preconceived notions. For example, imagine confessing to a friend that you're feeling overwhelmed at work. Instead of empathy, they respond with unsolicited advice or judgment, assuming you're complaining rather than seeking support. Experiences like this condition us to second-guess our ability to communicate effectively. Over time, we become hypervigilant, crafting sentences so carefully that they lose spontaneity. But consider this unsettling truth. No matter how meticulously you choose your words, misunderstandings are inevitable. Language itself is imperfect, a mosaic of context, tone, and interpretation. By obsessing over precision, you sacrifice authenticity, trading genuine exchange for sterile correctness. Finally, let's address the allure of mystery, the belief that revealing too much diminishes your value in someone else's eyes. Popular culture romanticizes enigmatic figures. James Bond sipping martinis, Mona Lisa smirking silently, strangers exchanging cryptic glances across crowded rooms. Mystery captivates because it promises intrigue, leaving others hungry for more. But when applied to everyday conversations, this mentality creates distance instead of closeness. Picture yourself holding back details during a discussion, not because you lack trust, but because you fear appearing boring or predictable. What happens next? The other person senses your restraint and mirrors it, leading to a polite yet hollow interaction. True magnetism doesn't come from withholding, it comes from giving. Vulnerability invites reciprocity, creating a feedback loop of openness and understanding. As psychotherapist Esther Perel notes, relationships thrive not on secrets, but on shared discovery. Mystery may spark curiosity, but transparency fosters connection. These fears of oversharing, misconception, and losing mystery are rooted in the same underlying issue: the desire for control. We cling to these strategies because they promise safety, shielding us from rejection or embarrassment. Yet, paradoxically, they trap us in cycles of anxiety and disconnection. Every time you censor yourself, you reinforce the belief that your raw, unfiltered self isn't worthy of acceptance. And every time you prioritize mystery over honesty, you push others further away, turning potential bonds into fleeting impressions. But here's the urgent question: what happens when you stop trying to control how others perceive you? What if you embraced imperfection, the messy, unpredictable beauty of human interaction? Imagine leaning into moments of uncertainty, trusting that even if you stumble, the essence of who you are will shine through. Conversations aren't meant to be flawless performances. They're acts of co-creation, unfolding in real time between two imperfect beings. By releasing the need to manage outcomes, you unlock a new level of freedom, one that transforms silences from threats into opportunities. This brings us closer to a breakthrough realization. The key to never running out of things to say isn't mastering tactics or rehearsing lines. It's cultivating a mindset of presence and authenticity. But how do you shift from fear to freedom? What tools can help you navigate the delicate balance between vulnerability and boundaries? These questions lead us toward a profound shift, one that challenges everything you thought you knew about communication. Because embedded within the answers lies the power to transform not just your conversations, but your entire approach to human connection. What if the secret to never running out of things to say isn't about mastering clever phrases or rehearsing witty responses? It's about shifting your entire perspective on what conversation truly is. At its heart, conversation isn't a performance. It's an act of co-creation, a shared exploration where two people bring their full selves to the moment. And the key to unlocking endless streams of dialogue lies not in controlling outcomes, but in embracing curiosity, authenticity, and connection. Let's start with curiosity, the cornerstone of engaging communication. When you approach others with genuine interest, asking questions not for show, but because you want to understand, you transform every interaction into a journey of discovery. Think back to the last time someone asked you something unexpected. What's the most unusual thing you've ever eaten? Or, if you could live in any movie world, where would it be? These kinds of questions don't just break the ice. They spark imagination, inviting both parties to step outside the mundane and explore new territory. By leaning into curiosity, you stop worrying about filling silences and instead focus on uncovering stories, ideas, and perspectives that enrich the exchange. But here's the paradox. Curiosity requires vulnerability. It means letting go of the illusion that you must always appear knowledgeable or composed. Instead, you embrace uncertainty, trusting that even imperfect questions can lead to profound answers. Adlerian psychology supports this idea, suggesting that emotions like fear or hesitation arise because they serve specific goals, often tied to avoiding risk. If your goal shifts from seeking approval to fostering connection, fear loses its grip. Imagine walking into a room unburdened by the need to impress, free to ask whatever comes to mind. How liberating would that feel? This leads us to the second pillar, authenticity. Authenticity doesn't mean oversharing or dominating the conversation. It means showing up as yourself, unfiltered by societal expectations or imagined judgments. As Kashimi and Koga explain, unhappy people often view relationships through the lens of competition, constantly comparing themselves to others. But happy communicators see interactions as opportunities for mutual growth. They celebrate differences rather than fearing them, knowing that diversity fuels creativity. For example, imagine discussing hobbies with someone whose interests seem worlds apart from yours. Instead of dismissing their passion for birdwatching or vintage cars, you lean in with fascination. What drew you to that hobby? Or, what's the coolest thing you've learned so far? By focusing on shared humanity rather than superficial similarities, you create space for meaningful engagement. The third pillar is contribution, the realization that every conversation offers a chance to add value. Happy people instinctively know this. Helping others feel heard, seen, and appreciated fulfills a deeper need within themselves. Psychologist Carl Rogers emphasized this in his theory of unconditional positive regard, arguing that true connection arises when we approach others without judgment or agenda. When you listen deeply and respond authentically, you signal to the other person that their voice matters, that they matter. This creates a feedback loop of generosity, encouraging them to reciprocate. Even small gestures, a thoughtful follow-up question, a reflective nod, can turn fleeting exchanges into memorable moments. Now, let's address a common objection. Isn't it exhausting to always contribute, to always give? Not if you redefine what contribution means. Helping others doesn't have to be grand or selfless. It can be as simple as sharing laughter, offering encouragement, or expressing gratitude. Moreover, contributing benefits you as much as it does the other person. As Kashimi and Koga argue, happiness stems not from external validation, but from believing you are useful to others. By focusing on how you can uplift those around you, you shift the dynamic from scarcity to abundance. There's no limit to what you can offer, which means there's no limit to what you can say. Finally, here's the ultimate revelation. The key to never running out of things to say isn't rooted in tactics. It's rooted in presence. Presence isn't just paying attention, it's fully immersing yourself in the moment, releasing distractions, and allowing the conversation to unfold naturally. When you're present, you notice details others might miss, the subtle inflection in someone's voice, the flicker of emotion behind their words, and use those cues to guide the discussion forward. You stop worrying about what to say next because you're responding organically to what's happening right now. So, I leave you with this poetic truth. Conversation is less like a script and more like a river, flowing, evolving, unpredictable. To keep it alive, you don't dam it with doubt or redirect it with force. You simply step into the current, trusting that it will carry you somewhere beautiful. Whether you're meeting someone new, deepening a friendship, or navigating awkward pauses, remember this. The power to sustain dialogue lies not in perfect words, but in your willingness to connect, to listen, to share, to be human. Because beneath every silence lies untapped potential waiting to be unearthed.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was insightful and educative. If you like this video, do well to click like, share, and subscribe for more insightful videos like this. See you later. Bye.